Welcome to Yelling Into the Void, a podcast discussing and exploring topics in World of Warcraft. I'm Tevin. I'm joined as always by Scott, and we are in midnight, friends. Early access as of this recording has concluded, and midnight has fully launched. We're here doing it.
It's going great. No issues, no problems, nothing. Everything's going great.
You can level extremely fast.
It's so fast. Like, I've never leveled this fast in my whole life.
Well, for those of you who maybe can't pick up on the sarcasm here, so Scott and I did this same episode essentially for The War Within when that released, and we went into early access kind of unknowing what was going to happen because it was the first time that early access was ever a thing. We didn't know what all we were going to have access to. We didn't our thought process was we were going to be able to level a character and we would start doing dungeons, start doing maybe heroic dungeons. And then maybe we'd level another character.
Mm-hmm.
Or within that, maybe level another character turned into, I'll just go max out the XP boost. And yeah, what's it cap at? 5 tunes? I think in the first, the early access weekend, I leveled 5 tunes.
I don't think I quite got there, but I certainly got further than I have this past weekend.
But anyways, when we were doing that episode, Scott, you reminded me today that we said, I think they're going to do something about this. I don't think they like this. And, well, come to find out, I think we were right when we said that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we said is it felt like the leveling was just a bit too fast in The War Within. It was just a little bit too fast. And I do have this very specific memory of us saying, I hope they don't over adjust for this in the next expansion. And I think they have just a little bit. Yeah. So to explain how my weekend went, I got my first guy to 90 by Friday night, which sounds like it's very fast considering it was a day. But it was a day that I had off from work. And so I literally did nothing that day except for play. It took a long time. And I wasn't really doing any of the side quest stuff because I was under the impression I knew that the campaign was not going to take me all the way to 90, but I figured, okay, I'll take the campaign to wherever it takes me, and then I'll just dungeon grind for the rest of it. That was my plan. So I got to 87, 88, whatever. You and I did a dungeon together, and I was like, that didn't give me that much experience, actually. That was actually an incredibly low amount of experience relative to how much I needed for the level. I think it was a bar. So at 87, 88, it would take 10 dungeons to get one level. And I might even be underestimating that. And so, I think we quickly realized, along with pretty much everyone else playing this game, that the amount of experience you get from dungeons has been heavily lowered in Midnight. And I think I think across the board, the amount of time it takes to get to max level went down from The War Within. But I think especially the amount of experience you get from dungeons went way down. To the point where I have not seen a single person grinding levels on alts or anything saying I'm doing it via dungeons. It just doesn't seem like it's horribly inefficient to do it via dungeons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I will say too, I think a side effect of this, we recruited pretty heavily going into midnight, and I logged on today, and we had somewhere between 15 and 20 people online pretty much all day today. And, we had less than that from early access weekend because not everybody got early access, but we had quite a fair bit of people who did. And so, we're talking if we're just going to ballpark, 10 plus people in the guild had early access. And going into today and right up until we started recording this, which is almost on the verge of midnight Eastern right now.
Yeah.
I think I've seen one person who's on their third tune, which is just to put it into perspective for you guys. At this point in The War Within, I would have been leveling like my 6th or 7th tune.
Yeah.
Like that is the difference in XP that I think. And like, yeah, sure, I have less free time. I will wholly acknowledge like this isn't 100% the game. But that being said, like you're almost incentivized when you go in and you start leveling. I think people have found out like delves are a pretty decent way to level, but that's only like the first time you do them. You get a pretty big XP boost for doing the
Yeah.
like Delver's Call quest.
You get that, but the way people are actually grinding is there like there's a specific delve that you can like pull the whole delve, especially if you're a tank.
True.
And people were just like running that over and over and over again. And I don't know. First of all, I'm not a tank. Second of all, that just sounds not very fun for me.
Yeah.
So okay, to step back, like I think it is generally okay that it takes a little bit of time to go through the questing experience of this game, right? I think the problem we're having is that is a change in expectation. So it's like I remember we were pleasantly surprised in Midnight or in the War Within. We were like, oh wow, like this is like way faster than I thought. Like I entered early access in the War Within basically expecting to level one character if I was lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, maybe I'll get through one character in the weekend. And I was like, oh wow, that was really fast. And dungeons are really, really good experience. So I guess I'll do another. And then I did. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll do another. And I did. And I think I got 3 during early access weekend, and then I got every single class I wanted to play up by the end of that. But before the season started, essentially. And obviously that's like still possible. There's first of all, there's world first people that have leveled 30 classes in a weekend. I know some of the content creators have leveled all like the healers, the content creator healers I watch have leveled all their healers over the weekend. Like it's certainly possible. It's just different and it's a little bit longer. And it's different for me in a way that I don't love because I actually, on the list of like grinds in this game, the grind I that bothers me the least is dungeon grinding. And I guess that shouldn't be too much of a surprise because like that's kind of what Mythic Plus is. You just do the same dungeons over and over again. So like that's a grind that I'm okay in, and like the other thing I tell myself is like at least I'm getting to like play the spec that I want to play, because like when I'm leveling I play DPS obviously, because who wants to level as a healer? But at least when I'm dungeon spamming, I can at least be playing a healer, and like I don't have to do that much healing because it's normal dungeons. But I'm at least in the spec that I want to play, and so like I've leveled, as you said, I got the one character to 90. I've leveled my monk to 84, and that's all I've done. And the only reason I've done that is because the best way to get renowned at this point of the game is to do all the side quests in each of the zones, because they give you a bunch of renown, and I think it's like a renown level 8 or 9 where you can get the 4 champion tier pieces. They're like the only champion tier items we can get until I think until the season starts, honestly.
Yeah.
And so I just was like, well, I need to do these quests. I might as well do it on a character that's going to get the experience from it while getting the renown. And so I hopped on my monk and started doing that. But that's the only reason, because just like staring down the barrel of I want to get all my healers up and having to do the same campaign or the same quests or delve grind or whatever 6 times is like, I am not very encouraged to level my characters right now.
Mm-hmm. So you and I have talked about this outside of the confines of the podcast, but I wanted to bring it up here. I don't think either one of us has an issue with how long it took us to level our first character.
No,
that's not what we're saying at all. Like we are specifically talking about once you've done this, you've done the whole shindig. Like your alts should be faster to level.
Yeah,
and they are. But only slightly. Yeah. And like they did this thing that they did in the War Within that I thought was so good in the War Within, where like you finish the campaign, you finish leveling your first character, you unlock the end game, and then you go to level your second character, and you're not beholden to do the campaign. You can level through world quests. You can level through the new systems that they introduce. Like you have access to the praise system once you hit level 90 on your first character.
Mhm.
But on your second character, you can do it from 80, which that's great. That's lovely.
Yeah.
But
But
it's still so slow. Like I just feel like if you've already done the whole thing once, you've already experienced all of this,
Mhm.
then you shouldn't be beholden to then spend another 8-12 hours doing the campaign again. Like the fact that the campaign quests not only don't get you to max level, which is still weird to me, but it was kind of that way in the War Within too.
yeah, I
So
mean they want you to do the side quests. I think it's just tough because you don't necessarily know how many of the side quests you need to do, because if
exactly.
you did all of them, you would max out at 90 like well before the campaign is over.
Mhm.
But on the other side, if you don't do any of them, yeah, you're well short. So there's not, you have to kind of like pick and choose if you want to like nail it perfectly, which is a little awkward.
And it felt weird this time around too. I need to go back and like I don't know how I'm going to figure this out, but it felt like the dungeon quests were like super unimpactful this time too. Like the amount of XP that you were getting out of the dungeon quests felt almost negligible
Yeah.
when you compared it to something like the delves, which are extremely short this expansion. I will say the one good thing about delves this expansion is it seems like they've understood the place of delves
Yeah.
and they've made them shorter, very like straightforward content that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And in part, I wonder if this is because they have the labyrinth stuff now, and that's where they can put their more complicated stuff.
Maybe, yeah.
But so you do these delves that are relatively quick, 10 minutes or so, and then you get like awarded almost 80,000 XP at the end of it.
Yeah, so a dungeon quest is double experience from like a regular quest. Like I think at regular quests are around like 12, 13,000 XP. And a dungeon quest gives like 25,000 XP. And then yeah, delve quest gives probably 5 times as much, 6 times as much.
Yeah, it's like 77K.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's a one-time thing, but so are the dungeon quests. So yeah, I mean that doesn't make a lot of sense. I agree. I mean, to me, it makes sense, and I honestly thought they were going to do this for the War Within. Like, I don't know if you remember that, like experience you got from delves in the War Within sucked, right? Like it was not worth the time. Even the Delver's Call quests didn't really reward that much experience. So I appreciate that they've buffed that up and are like, yeah, we're gonna like give people an incentive to do delves while they're leveling. That sounds good to me. They probably should have done that last expansion. I'm for that. But they also, while doing that, completely like cut off every other method of getting experience. And it just, yeah, I mean, it's weird. I agree. I don't think anyone should ever have to do the campaign multiple times. And like, let's be clear here. You don't have to, right? Like you could still, and I probably will still end up leveling at least one character entirely from dungeons. It's just ridiculously slow compared to some of the other methods of doing it. So if you're trying to be the person that, oh, I have limited playtime, but I want all my characters max level before the season starts, you're kind of incentivized a little bit. I mean, look, there's people listening to this right now that are like, these guys are fucking ridiculous. Like the game came out technically today. There was an early access weekend, but the game technically came out today, and they're complaining about how long it took to level when we've completed the campaign on our mains. I get that and I understand that. I just like the leveling part of the game is never the most fun part for me. I do like to enjoy it the first time I do it, and I do. And maybe we'll talk about the Midnight campaign a little bit later, and what we felt of the actual storytelling. But like that's a one and done for me thing, where just like I just don't enjoy that experience after I've done it once already. Like there's no inherent value to me of the gameplay of questing to the point where like I like doing the same quests multiple times. I just don't care for it. So yeah, it's in a weird place. I also think maybe this was just me. It felt a little bit like the scaling got really aggressively bad at the top end. I mean, this was true in the War Within as well for dungeons. Remember when like dungeons like at 81 you were a god, and then at like 80 or 79 rather you weren't. I think it's not as dramatic an effect on the low end in this expansion. I think at the high end, like my boomkin was getting fucking wrecked by things at 89. Like I would like have to be spamming regrowth on myself when things are hitting me. And I just wasn't killing them fast enough. And I thought that was a little. I mean, look, this is like at classic players are like, oh, I'm sorry, the mobs didn't just die in 3 hits, but like that's not what I'm used to, right? I just like that's not the way the game plays anymore. So it was surprising. I wonder if these were all like conscious efforts they made to like recapture a certain part of the game that they've let go a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. The only thing that I would say that I think that they are somewhat achieving in doing all of this is it has pushed people to do content that maybe they wouldn't do in other scenarios, which I think is interesting. The other thing that I find wild, and I don't know if I'm just misremembering this or what, but I swear I recall people doing the questing on beta and saying like, oh, this main story quest is only going to take people like 4 hours to do.
Yeah.
Like that happened, right? Am I just misremembering that?
I feel like yeah, like the min maxers were getting to 90 in 4 or 5 hours. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen anything definitively that says like, hey, they like massively nerfed the amount of experience you get from stuff in live from what we did on beta, which they could have. I just haven't seen anything. I'd be interested to actually find that out if that's the case. That because I did the first zone in beta, and I did a little bit of Zulaman, and I just don't remember what my level was at when I did that. I was trying to remember that this weekend, and I just don't remember how far I got. So I can't say anything definitively about that, but I'm sure someone knows that information out there somewhere, and we just haven't quite read it yet.
Yeah. Well, I do want to continue on because, like, yes, the questing and leveling is like the main thing that you can do during early access. And yes, I think it's pretty evident that Scott and I think that maybe we went too far in the other direction from the War Within, and maybe it's a little too slow for the retail version of the game.
Yeah, maybe by
specifically on alt.
Maybe by the last Titan, we will have gotten this right. It was a little too fast in the War Within. It's a little too slow in Midnight. Maybe next expansion we'll just that little bear, Goldilocks.
Yeah, Goldilocks are these Goldilocks podcasters and can't even get their freaking leveling correct. Jeez. Yeah,
I do wonder if like how many people out there listening are like sharing this experience with us or not, or if they just think we're fucking nuts, because I'm sure there's some people out there that are frustrated by it, but I'm sure there's some people out there that don't give a shit and are like these privileged WoW players think everything should just be handed to them. That's not what I'm saying, to be clear. I just am not. I guess what I'm saying is I love this game and I am not looking forward to leveling my 5.5 alts I would like to level, 4.5 alts I would like to level over the next couple weeks. I'm not gonna. I'm debating whether or not I actually want to do it. is where I'm at right now, which is not a fun place to be.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to clarify my stance on this is like I am fine with how long it took my main to get to level 90. In fact, I would have been okay if it took a little longer to get to 90 on my main. Like that would not have bothered me. I wouldn't have even thought twice about it. It is specifically the alts that this matters for. And like anybody who's playing a ton of alts, this is something that you just kind of get used to anyways, I guess. So maybe it's not actually an issue.
Sure.
But it feels so weird to me that it takes just as long to level your alts when we are 100% acknowledging in the game now, this isn't your first time through it. Here's all these other things that you can do to level. Like, we should also acknowledge this isn't your first time through it, and you've probably done all of these other things that now you can do on your alt.
Yeah.
Let's speed things up just a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Give you maybe a little more XP.
I wonder if there's a way of doing like this is me specifically asking for buffs to dungeons is because that's what I want to do. But like, I wonder if there's a way of like, I understand you don't want to give dungeons too much experience because you want people to do the campaign. So you don't want like on your first character, people to just be like, oh, I'm just going to dungeon spam and that's all I'm going to do. But maybe like one of the things that unlocks when you get your character to 90 and finish the campaign is like a dungeon bonus thing where you get bonus experience points in for completing a dungeon or something. That might work, and it would solve the problem that you and I are complaining about here.
Yeah. And I know somebody's going to say like, well, your alts do level faster. You get the like stacking XP buff or whatever.
Yeah, true.
I mean, a small percentage on an already small number is a small number.
Sure.
So
maybe that's why they did it though, is because I think the one thing that's true is, I don't know, like I appreciated that buff in the War Within, but I didn't feel it as much because it was just like so quick without it, right? That maybe that's the intent of like, we're going to make this harder so you actually do feel like, because I think by the time we get to our fifth one where the buff is maxed, that we probably would notice that if we were running the same shit back again and doing the same quest over again. It's like, oh, I got to 83, 10 quests before I got to it last time I did this.
Yeah, I mean, it's what, it caps at 25% if it's like War Within ones.
So. I believe so, yeah. It's 5% per. Yeah.
Which, like, that's not bad.
No.
Like, to be clear, that's not bad. But I don't know. Questing aside, Scott, we've got to talk about some of the other things with early access and some of the other things that were a little weird. So to kind of, I guess we're riding this low right now, at least for you and I, that leveling alts kind of sucks.
We can finish on the really strong stuff. Finish on the strong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then we need to talk about something else that I found extremely weird. To the point where I was even talking to you about this right before we started this episode. So there's a lot of world events that were introduced with Midnight. Pretty much every zone has like an event thing you can do for it.
Yeah.
So there's like the abundance event. There's the Silver Moon Court stuff. And then there's like a defense thing you can do in Voidspire. And then the Harner one, I don't even know what it is. But there's this like legend thing you can do for them.
Yeah, you like pick a weapon every week and like learn the lore of it or something over a series of quests. I haven't gotten to do it, obviously, but I think that's what it is. It's like I do appreciate, by the way, that they're trying to mix up these events. They're not all like time-based events of you have to be here at every hour on the hour to do something. There are some of them that are like that, like the Voidstorm one is definitely that. But yeah, like the Harroneer one is not. The Abundance event is not that. So I like that they're mixing these things up a little bit. They did that a little bit in the War Within too. I think the one in the, I can't even remember the name of the zone anymore. The mines zone.
Ringing
Deeps. Thank you. The one there was like not a certain time thing. That's just, you had to go into that stupid event, then solo that.
Yeah. The people did like twice and then never did again.
Yeah.
Well, unless they got it for their weekly thing.
That was me. That's me. Yeah.
Mastering machinery or some shit like that.
But anyway, back to your point. Some of these events didn't work, right?
Yeah. That was the weirdest thing. So some of them worked completely, albeit they weren't giving loot. And then like, I think the one that annoys me the most, so the Silver Moon Court stuff and the Harnier Legend quest line thing, I don't even know what it's supposed to be called, unfortunately, but those two like just weren't in the game at all on early access. You can't access the quest givers to start the small quest chain you have to do those.
Which is fine, right? I think that's fine.
Yes. But then you have the Abundance, and this one you can do the quest to like start it, and like it goes through the whole tutorial of everything that you need to do it. And it doesn't like fully really explain the purpose of this, and so people looked it up, and like you get specific like crafting mats and stuff through it, and things like that. And so people were doing this and expecting to get the crafting mats. Well, you don't get them from the tutorial.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go back in to do it again. And then you just can't interact with anything that the abundance objective is. Like, you can kill the mobs, you can mine the nodes, you can do everything. All of the shit drops onto the ground because it's like stuff drops onto the ground, you pick it up and take it to an altar, but you can't pick it up. It just stays on the ground. So
Yeah.
it did not feel like this was the intention, because you could enter it, you could do all the things, but you couldn't actually do the whole event.
Yeah.
So this feels like it's either bugged or it was implemented in a very crappy way in early access to like stop you from actually doing it. But if that's what we wanted to do, in my opinion, what we should have done was kind of like with the Silver Moon Courts or the Haranir stuff. Is
Yeah.
just like, don't have the quest become available until we're ready for this to go live.
Yeah. We are recording this on Monday the 3rd or the 2nd. And as of right now, they've not said anything about this, and the game is live, and I believe the Abundance quest is still bugged. I don't know about the Herondar one. But so maybe these things are just bugs. I think this is one of these unfortunate side effects of early access, where like so much of the game is understandably like behind a wall because they want to be very clear with their messaging with early access, is that it doesn't provide you an advantage. All you can do is level, which is obviously still an advantage, but we're going to continue to play this game. But I think like this is why it's confusing, because if you had asked me at the beginning, are the weekly events or the big events in the game going to be available in early access weekend, I would have just said no, probably not. But then one of them was, and then the other kind of was, but then surprise, it wasn't. So yeah, I mean, they haven't said anything about whether these were bugs or not or intended. It seems like the Abundance one was just a bug, but the Void Storm one, like, that's active, and as you said, just not giving you anything when you complete it. Like, I think you get credit for completing it for like the weekly quest, but you don't get any rewards out of it. And so like, yeah, again, is that what you wanted, or did you just like, oops, forget to disable the thing, and then like it's the weekend, no one's probably on early access, no one's probably going to rush into the office to turn an event off, and since it wasn't awarding loot, you're just like, whatever, forget it. I don't know, it's confusing. I remain a giant hypocrite that thinks that early access is bad and this shouldn't be in the game, but we'll continue to get it for as long as it is in the game. I just want to acknowledge that fact again for people like that. That's me. That will continue to be me. And this is one of those weird reasons why I don't like it, because it's confusing. This stuff's confusing, and it stratifies the game in really weird ways that I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah, the main thing that I really want them to I want to figure out from them, and I would like them to put out a statement, is like, are these things bugged or are they not?
Yeah.
Because going into tomorrow with reset, I imagine everything is going to then work as it's intended. The abundance should work as intended. We're going to start to be able to do mythic zeros. We should be able to do all the world events. We should be able to do all the delves up to whatever level we're allowed to. And everything's just going to work, which is something that we always expect. Like, even if we didn't have early access, the game released on Monday, we expect the first reset Tuesday to be what unlocks anything that was previously locked.
Yeah. And maybe that's exactly what's happening here, is that even though early access is over, they don't want to do anything until the reset.
Yeah.
Sure.
Which is fine. I just want them to acknowledge the fact that people are doing this. People are taking their time out to go do these events, and they're not receiving rewards, or being told that they're not going to be receiving rewards.
Yep.
They can't even complete the abundance event. I mean, you can stand in there and just keep killing things until you're blue in the face, and you just can't do anything.
I have heard from some people they got it to work. Actually, they like went back in multiple times and it actually worked. I have not confirmed that myself. I tried it and it didn't work for me. So I don't know. That's conjecture, but that's even more confusing, right? That's like,
yeah.
Isn't there a limited resource and able to initiate these things? That's why I'm afraid to try it too many times because I don't want to use up all this resource.
Well, the other thing too is the Silver Moon Court stuff. When early access ended and the game went fully live, you couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But they pushed out an update or a hotfix at some point that enabled the quest for you to go and do it. And now that is fully functioning. You can do all of it. You get all the weekly stuff from it and all the weekly quests, and you can do the entirety of the thing.
Yeah,
so
we get
why
to do
is that one different from the other ones?
Right, because I think we get to do it before the reset, right? We do it tonight. We'll get like an extra one versus anyone else. Yeah, that's weird.
It doesn't make sense.
Maybe early access is bad.
But so like that's just another thing that's just like completely odd.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to say, like, does this ultimately matter? I guess is the question that I have. And I think the answer, like you just said, is no, because we're not receiving anything really from it. But it is something that's going to count towards like the world event shit that you can do, or the weekly quests that you can do that's going to have you go and do something relative to the current season. And I find it odd that it's such a disjointed experience from zone to zone and from event to event. Like, I feel like they should have decided one thing and that should have applied to all four. And that's just how it was.
And maybe they did, and they just fucked up, and maybe they'll never let us know because they don't want people to know when they make mistakes. I honestly don't know.
So, event wise, do you, I guess, what would have been your ideal? Do you think that this should have just like all of them should have been locked? Tuesday comes around, reset happens, quests are available, you can go do the quest chains? Or do you think we should have been able to do the quest chains, but the event shouldn't have been able to be started?
I think anything connected to the event should not have worked in early access. That is like, if they want to stay true to what their kind of corporate slogan for early access is, then it should be the only thing you can do is level. That's it. The only thing early access gives you is you get to do the campaign sooner than anyone else, and that's it. That's what I think it should have been. So yeah, I don't think any of these events should have worked. I mean, I guess you could say the only end game activities you should have had were like, I guess world quests is fine. I'm fine with people being able to do world quests. I was a little surprised. Do you remember, were heroic dungeons available in early access in the War Within? I can't remember.
I can't remember either. I also, like, if they were, I probably wouldn't have done them because it was so fast to level.
Yeah, you were just hopping on new characters. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think, I don't know, man. I feel so weird because, like, I feel like the questing experience is the whole purpose of early access.
Yeah.
And, like, if you want to frame this in a good light, like, it gives people time to do the quests and everything without having the pressure of feeling like they need to do anything else. That being said, you have 3 fucking weeks until the season starts. Like, that's more than enough time, even with the slow leveling experience, to get your character up and not feel that time.
This is why this whole conversation is admittedly a little bit silly, because yes, like, we're probably going to get here. We're gonna be talking this time next week and gonna be like, man, I wish I had more to do because I leveled all my classes already and I'm bored now. I mean, that's like, ironically, that was the exact thing that happened in the War Within, right? Is that like we were talking about the interminable wait for Mythic Plus to start. It took so long, and that's because we leveled our characters in like 5 days and we had all of our alts leveled up, and then we even, like, in the 2 weeks before the season, we ran Mythic Zeros on every single one of them,
which were daily lockouts.
Yeah, they were daily lockouts, but they gave such worse loot that it almost didn't matter. and we were bored as shit, and we were annoyed by it. We were like, the season needs to start sooner. We had a whole episode that I think was titled like "The Long Wait for the Season," and was like, is it too long between expansion launch and the beginning of the season? And in the War thing, we were like, yes, 1,000 times yes. And now we're sitting here going like, oh, this is taking too long to get through this stuff. We acknowledge this, but I don't know. I am what I am, you know?
This is the goal or the problem that game developers kind of decide that they want to deal with, though, when they decide that they want to develop a game.
Sure.
Like it is the Goldilocks scenario. Like we joke about, you and I being this like, oh, well, that's too fast and this is too slow. Maybe we need something right in the middle. But like that isn't just us. This is going to happen for any update, for anything that they do ever. And trying to nail that for the majority of the player base is a ever increasingly difficult goal.
Yeah, especially since for a lot of people, perhaps we could even say the majority of the people that play this game, this part of the game is like the most important part, is like the reason they come to the game. And so the idea that, you know, we're just like, can't we just like skip through this? Can't we? Like that is the eternal problem they face, is trying to make all these people happy simultaneously. And so like, I guess at the end of the day, if I'm like trying to figure out like what's the best possible solution, I think since this is not my preferred game mode, making it the best for the people that actually enjoy this part of the game is good. I guess that's what I'll say. So
yeah, my only 2 cents is, like I said, if you want to change things for mains, fine. But I think alt should be faster.
Yeah.
Maybe that's War Within fast. Maybe it's a little slower than the War Within. But I do think that the second time you're experiencing content, which Blizzard's are pros at people experiencing content for the second and third time at this point, maybe we speed it up just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
So negative things aside, there are some positives here. There are some like things for me. I don't think you and I have really talked about anything other than like just bitching and complaining at this point.
Yeah.
Outside of the podcast. So this is going to be new territory, but going through the zones, I want to talk about the zones a little bit with you.
Okay.
I have a very weird like relationship with those zones in Midnight. So for anybody who's been listening since the launch of The War Within, you will know how much Scott and I gushed over Hollowfall and that zone, and like the experience of just flying into the zone and the visuals and the whole aesthetic. And I'm going to be just completely blatantly honest here. Nothing was like that for me in Midnight.
Interesting. Okay.
And I have some zones that I think are interesting. Like I like the new Silver Moon. I think that's a good change. I liked going through and doing the quest line with Eretor. I thought that was interesting. But to be completely 100% honest with you, the Harnier zone, I can't remember for the life of me what the actual name of the Void Zone is. I keep saying Void Fire. Void Storm, that's what it is. I was like, I know I'm wrong, but I don't remember what it's called. And then Eversong, I don't know if I liked it just because it's novel and it's essentially a zone that I've been through before, and like there's nostalgia there, but I liked that zone. And like the zone that sticks out to me the most is Zulamon. And that is almost entirely carried by the fact that that's trolls and the Armani and everything like that. Like,
sure,
I'm going to be completely honest with you. It's not the zone that gets me excited for that. It's the content within the zone and what we're doing there.
Yeah.
And so how did you feel going through and just like experiencing each zone for the first time?
I really liked them for the most part. I thought the Zulamon zone was the best one by far. I did enjoy Eversong. I thought the nostalgia of Eversong was really great. I think they did a really good job remaking that zone. There's some fun stuff with like some of the world quests in that zone are literally like just the opening, the first quests you get as a blood elf. That was a little fun little nostalgia trip. I thought Zulaman was gorgeous and very good storyline wise. I probably think that Harandar is the weakest of the zones. Um, well, actually, I think the Void Storm is probably the weakest of the zones, but that's because like the story there feels unfinished because that's like the one story we didn't really get the end of yet because
Well,
that's
and a third of the map is just the PvP area.
correct. Yeah. But so here's my theory to follow up on my theory I made about the War Within a couple weeks ago when we were talking about it. I think Harandar is cut content from the War Within. That's my current theory. I think this was supposed to be the third patch of the War Within was Harandar and exploring those. And I think maybe it was when Metzen came back. Maybe it's when they decided to do the whole thing is not a single expansion, but this trilogy, and they added Xalatath to it. I think they cut Harandar out of the War Within. They switched it to whatever the Dimensius world was. I forget.
Karash.
Yeah, there we go.
That was the city. I don't remember.
That's fine. That's what I meant. And then they put Harandar back in. And I think so like you have the light bloom, right? Like the light bloom is like the big thing that's happening in Harandar. And I think it was the black blood. Because you remember there was like the black blood was everywhere and the black blood was taking over. And I think they just subbed out the black blood and they put in the light bloom and rewrote things to fix that. And the reason I'm saying this is because as much as I liked Harandar, it does to me feel like separate from the ongoing story of everything else. It feels removed from it. It feels tacked on. And I enjoyed it. It just doesn't, it just like one of these things is not like the others type of thing. And the more I thought about the War Within and the way the Harani are introduced, and it really felt like it was setting up something and that just never really paid off within that expansion. And now like, you know, like I think this is a very good expansion. I think it's so weird that like the map of the expansion is like you have Eversong Woods, you have Zulaman, and then you have two floating like portal things on the map because you're going to these two other zones. And it's just like, where's Harandar? Well, it's right below where we just were in the other expansion. Wouldn't it have made sense to just go there then? So that's my theory. I have no actual evidence to support that, but just the more I think about it, the more it feels right to me.
Yeah, the one thing that I was going to say too that is a very disjoint from the War Within is the War Within had this like, so for anybody who has been playing since season 2 of Dragonflight, has experienced this whole like underground system that Blizzard created with the Zeralik Caverns.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this whole like ability to like seamlessly load you into a completely new zone, and you like are flying through this giant underground tunnel. And the War Within was completely like almost entirely based off of this. Like you had Kazalgar, and then everything else was underground. And you flew down the giant mine shaft, and you would seamlessly load into the Ringing Deeps. And you'd fly through a doorway, and you'd load into Hollowfall.
Yeah.
And then you'd fly even more down, and you'd load into the Nerubian place. And so it feels weird to me to go from this like grandiose, like all interconnected world that they built for the War Within to come into Midnight. And you, like you said, you have 2 connected zones and then 2 that you have to take portals to.
Mm-hmm.
And the portals are just, in my opinion, maybe there's a rhyme or a reason to it, but just randomly placed in Silvermoon. And then you take them and you're just shit out into the zone. Like you don't legitimately travel there.
Yeah.
And so that feels just, I don't know, just a little odd when compared to the War Within.
I agree. I agree completely. And just like the technology that they had to develop to make that stuff work, the Z-axis layering of these zones, like that's really cool shit, right? That's like, I don't want to undersell like how cool that was. That like that's not how the loading of stuff in this game worked up until they figured that shit out. That's really cool. But yeah, I agree with you that it is very weird that the first time we travel to Harendar is, well, here, let me open this portal. I was like ready for it, right? You get the intro quest, you go talk to her. I was like ready for, this is going to take us back to the Eldorn. Maybe we're going to get to fly down there or something. And then it didn't happen. And it was a little bit of a letdown for me. And I think that taints the zone in a way that makes it end up like, of the three things you have to do when the game says, okay, you've done Eversong Woods, now do these three things before we can do the last chapter of the campaign. Of those three things, Harendar was my least favorite. And it that bums me out because it was the one I was most looking forward to. Like,
Yeah.
it's druidy. You know, I think that race looks really cool. I was interested in them in the War Within. And so I was really on board for it. And so that was a letdown for me. And I don't know, maybe we'll never learn whether if I was right or not, but yeah, I think that it was cut content from the War Within just feels right.
Well, the other thing with Harendar that's different from the remaining zones is the verticality in that zone is like on an entirely new level when you compare it to Voidstorm and Zulaman and Eversong. Like, there is like 3 different levels of Z-axis to that map. Like, you have like the underground, and then there's like a middle level, and then you've got things above. Like, there's a lot of verticality to that, which in one sense is extremely cool, and I like it. In another sense, when you're doing quests and you're going off the mini map, it is super frustrating to try and figure out what level you're supposed to be on at any given time. And this probably gets lessened by people who, you know, take time to read quest text and know exactly what they're doing and everything. But
nobody does that.
For somebody who just goes and clicks accept quest and then goes and turns it in because they can't really be fucking bothered, it's super confusing.
Yeah.
Which I think is one of the like downsides that I had, because like, look, let me be completely honest. I don't think any of the zones are bad, but I didn't have that wow factor that I had the first time I flew into Hollowfall.
Sure.
I don't know agree that I ever will again.
Yeah. That felt like something special. I don't think we'll get that again. And I want to be honest with you here, man. Like, I think this is a good expansion. I thought the story was pretty good. I thought there were some definite highlights of it. And so I think people like, I've been going through these side quests, and I think the side quests are really good, actually. Some of the writing of them is very funny. And I think it's because they don't have the weight of the story. They can just kind of go ham with some of these ideas. But I think the World of Warcraft quest design is really starting to get stale. It's really feeling it. And I know like quests in the game today are not the same as quests were in the game 20 years ago. They have had some innovations in how to do stuff differently, but I think those innovations themselves are now stale to the point where it's like it feels very rote to be like, you're going to go to a new area and you're going to have to do X thing and Y thing, but also the Z thing is there's going to be a percentage bar that you have to fill up by killing a certain number of people, which is just a way of disguising kill 20 boars. Instead of kill 20 boars, it's like aid the efforts, and then it ends up being you have to kill 20 of these things. You just don't know it yet. And that is really starting to get old for me. And there, I've seen other people talk about it because it was so ridiculous. But did you do the quest? That's, you know, they've added this like puzzle system to some of the quests, and one of them in this expansion was literally like, choose the gear that's turning the other way, and it's just 4 gears spinning on a plane, and 3 of them are spinning to the right and 1 is spinning to the left, and you have to do that 3 times, and that's the quest. And I'm like, what are we doing? What is that? That's nothing. That's not even like a puzzle. Like, at least the ones where you had to move the nodes around to get so none of the lines intersect, at least that was like something. It's not difficult in any way, shape, or form. It requires essentially no thought, but at least it was something. And this choose the gear thing is like, that's a child's toy. That's like the things I have for my 2-year-old. Like, what are we doing? So, like, I really do think, I think that is part and parcel of the problem we're having. Is it's a little slower. You can't just ignore it on your alts, and it's getting a little stale. And all those things swirling around make this experience that, you know, that I enjoyed but didn't love.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to say spoiler warning for anybody who hasn't finished the campaign. I don't know that that's going to be very many people since we're likely going to release this on Friday.
Yeah.
But spoiler warning now, we are going to talk about some quest and campaign stuff. Because you brought up the point of the like quests where you have the like puzzles. And I don't think that those are inherently bad. And I think that it's cool to have something where you have to like put more thought into it than just like go click the glowing thing. But I don't know if you remember the like quote unquote puzzle quest in Zul'Aman where it's like, ooh, you need to solve the riddle to get through to the next doorway.
Yes,
and
I do.
What you do is you go click the 2 fucking pots and then you go kill 2 mobs and then you can't, like, you get like remains and you have to put them in the pots and you are unable to put them in the incorrect pot.
Yeah.
So you just complete the quest, you complete the riddle with doing nothing.
Well,
and I felt like that was really weird.
Yeah, and it'd be one thing, like, for there was a brief moment where I was like, oh, they're doing something interesting, because like there's a possibility of like there's multiple mobs you have to kill. Only 2 of them are the correct ones, and you have to figure out which pot to put them in by listening to the riddle. But no, there's only 2 of them. They're marked on your map. It does like the quest like circle dot thing on your map. So you don't even have to like find them. It's not even like, ooh, you're gonna have to go down in this mysterious labyrinth and find these 2 mobs. And like it's not even that. It's just, so this quest is just go kill those 2 things. And that's it. It's just disguised as a puzzle, but it's not a puzzle. And it's just like, that's a cool idea of mixing it up, but they didn't follow through on it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just like, I understand this is a 20-year-old game, and I understand there are people that still love the leveling experience in Classic. I don't understand those people, but I know that they exist. But like, what are we doing here? like I understand it's a lot of work to make these expansions, and you have hundreds of quests you have to build, but when we have stuff like that, it's like, what are we doing? Like, that's nothing. That's not a thing. Yeah. And I don't know how to bring fresh ideas to this space. I don't know what to do with it. I mean, I think we talked about this a couple of months ago before the Midnight launch, before the Midnight was even announced. We were trying to get our heads around like what kind of things they could add to this expansion talent tree wise and stuff. And I think we posited the idea of like, what if they had an expansion where there just is no level cap increase, where the content of the expansion is not questing levels. And I still remain kind of semi-unconvinced that would work in any real way. But like, I'm returning to it now because I'm like, if this is the quest design, like let's set the story aside. If this is the design of the quests, if this is the type of thing we're going to do 20 years into this game, why are we still doing it?
Yeah. The other part too with the quests and the main story quest, and we talked about this, but like that not getting you to max level is understandable, but it almost feels like each zone you don't get like, it's weird because so the way that you go into the beginning of an expansion, right? Like this is supposed to be setting up. This is the chapter 1 of everything that we're doing for the expansion. So you're getting introduced to characters, you're getting introduced to people, you're getting introduced to their beliefs and all of this stuff so that we can then build on that later in the expansion. But to me, it feels like, and this is going to sound so fucking stupid as somebody who was just complaining about things taking too long, but it feels like the zones are so fast. Like you go through each specific quest in such a short amount of time that you don't really get the full experience of like what exactly things are and why are you doing them. And I think that is the whole reason why Zulaman was the best zone for me, because everybody knows what we're doing with the trolls there. Everybody knows why the trolls and the blood elves don't get along. Everybody knows who Vol'jin is, or Zul'jin.
Mhm.
And like, that is all understood. We know the lore behind them. This is nothing like particularly new. And like, yeah, the Harnir have been around, and the Void and the Light have been around, and like, sure, but it's not as fleshed out as Zolaman was. And going into that, like, that was still relatively short story wise. I mean, you just go around and you essentially like go to a few temples of a bunch of different Loa, and then you're done.
Mhm.
But like, we know about the troll religion. Like, we did all of this stuff in Shadowlands with the Loa then. We've experienced Loa before that, and now we're getting to experience Loa again. Like, all of that is understood. And so I think the conciseness of that was fine because the groundwork was laid for it.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't know how they fix this, because on one hand, I'm complaining about things taking too long. And again, to be completely clear, that is not for my main. And maybe that's why I feel this way. Like, if we really want to set up the story going into the expansion, we need to be doing more foundational work than we have, because it does feel a little half-assed
Yeah,
to
well,
me.
I mean, like, this is I I think that just the storytelling in this game is bad. Like, I just like I love this game. I really do, and I appreciate the worlds and I appreciate the lore to a certain extent, but I really just have always believed for years that like the beat to beat, moment to moment storytelling of this game is not very good. And I don't think this expansion is any real exception to that. Like, there's good moments, sure. I kind of liked the Erator stuff. It was like the most I felt that there was actual like character and growth and conflict, internal conflict in a character. A lot of people don't like it, and that's fine. But I just don't think the game as it is presented and as it has become is like the best vehicle for telling a story. I really don't think it is. And that's why so much of the story has to be told through cutscenes that are released even before the moments in the story play. And then it's just like you talk to a quest person, it says, and it's like, tell me what happened. And then a cool, awesome animation plays, which the animations are like really good. Like the Erator ones they released like before and then the day of early access, I thought were well done. But it's just so weird that the story is told like that. And then in other ways told in other ways. And I think where the game succeeds is like pockets of storytelling. And this is why I think like the side quests are some of the best work that they do in this regard, because it's just like a little mini story that's told over like 15 minutes. The stakes are usually like pretty low. It's just like one person has a problem and they need your help with it, and they grow and change over the course of that 5 or 6 quest line arc, and then it's done. It's like you know, I say when I talk about books and short stories, like what the thing I say is that like a novel and a short story have a different set of expectation and therefore a different set of rules. Things that you can get away with in a short story, you can't get away with in a novel because of the time and emotional investment in it. And short stories can be like a cheat code for like getting away with things. That's why like you can end a short story on like a really depressing ending where like no one learns anything and nothing is achieved and everyone's dead. And it's like, that doesn't bother people as much because it took me 20 minutes to read that story as opposed to 4 hours. And I think that's something that's also happening with the overarching campaign of this game and its little pockets of storytelling in some of these side quests. So I'm with you on that. I appreciate the irony of leveling is too slow, but the story feels too fast, because I think while that feels like a contradiction, it's also true, I think, in a weird way. And I just think it's because this is not the ideal way to tell a story. And they've kind of fallen into telling the story this way over time. And I think this just accentuates it for me.
Yeah. The one thing to note here too is when we do have like background on things, that's for people who've been playing for a long time. So there are a lot of things that get explained, which is good. I do
Yeah,
think that they need to continue to do that because
totally.
since we are releasing the story in a vessel that is a game that you can jump in and play at any given time, that's just the nature of the beast, right? Like if you were to pick up like the third book of Game of Thrones and just expect to understand everything, I would call you crazy. But if you pick up WoW on the new expansion release, like yeah, you should have some leeway in understanding what your
Totally.
experience.
Yeah.
Um,
The one other thing I'll say about Zulaman is that is the zone in which the story of the zone is the most video gamey. And
yep.
what I mean by that is your objective in the zone is the main character of the zone is needing to assume her rightful place as the leader of the zone, a leader of the tribe. And to do that, she has to go to 4 Loas and pass their trials and get the power of the Loa. And then she gets all 4 of the Loa powers together and then strikes out against the enemy and wins. And that is the story of the zone. And that is very video gamey in a very safe and comfortable way. And I think that's why it works. And I think they did the same thing in Dragonflight. That was essentially the story of Dragonflight, right? The story of the initial campaign of Dragonflight is you had to go to each one of the type of dragons. You had to I forget what it was called, like the stone, whatever. You had to recharge the stone, which basically brought the power of the dragons back for them, and that was very video gamey in a very functional way. Of you have 6 things you need to do, and we'll tell the story of each of these different areas over that time. They each have a different culture. They each have a different problem. They each have a different history, and that all is expressed in that, and it just worked very well. And I think the same thing is true in Zulaman, and that's why it's my favorite.
Yeah. So with the quest lines that we went through, Scott, we had an initial quest line that you're forced to do, which is essentially the entirety of Eversong Woods.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit more that goes on there when you do the Eretor story. But so you had Eversong Woods forced to do that first, which I think is good because it shows you like, hey, this isn't the zone that you remember it as. We've made a lot of changes.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. And then you get to pick. You can pick whether you want to go do Eretor's story. You can pick whether you want to do Zulaman or you can go to Haranir. And those are the 3 kind of like branches that you have. And then once those 3 are done and you've reached level 86, which we haven't even talked about this yet, a lot of people will finish those before they hit level 86 and then have to go do something to then hit level 86 to finish the final zone of the leveling expansion.
I didn't actually know that was true. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was gated behind that.
And so you have this like branching choice. You come back, you do all 3 of those. What I felt was a little kind of weird was you get all of those kind of branching stories and they're kind of just like these small bite-sized things, and then you come back and you talk to Lorthamar and you give him like the TLDR of what I did over the last 3 hours or whatever,
Yeah.
and then he gives you one voice line or like one interaction with an NPC, and then you just move on. That's it. Like
Yeah.
it feels like it just feels disjointed. It doesn't feel like it's tied into like an overarching story.
Mm-hmm.
And this will probably be fleshed out with the patch cycle content. Like when we get the raids and we move in between each season, I'm sure everything gets tied up. And this is just how they have to do it because we are playing a video game. Wholly understanding that. I just feel like it's a lot more in your face in Midnight. And it feels awkward. But again, it doesn't take away from the fact that I feel like the expansion so far has been decent. But it does. It feels like the covers have been pulled back more in Midnight than they ever have been before.
The story is not even close to being done, but I read your point. Like Xalatath does not feature much in the storyline of this expansion very much. Like the very beginning, yes. And I'm assuming like all the raid shit is going to circle around Xalatath a lot. And we haven't gotten to that. So this is what I'm assuming is going to happen. But it does feel a little bit weird that like she is the marketing of this expansion. She is it. Like they know what they have here and they are milking this character for everything they have. But it feels weird that she's just not present in the actual storyline very much. Like even in the Void Storm, like she shows up a little bit, but that's not primarily what the Void Storm story is about either. Again, that's because it's like half complete. This is again the weird part of doing this, that they've time gated story as well behind seasonal content, and so
Mhm.
like we've technically finished the leveling campaign, but the story itself has several more chapters.
Yeah.
It's weird.
So the one thing that I did thoroughly enjoy this expansion, and it might get annoying to some people, but I don't know. I felt like it was good because Blizzard always is super good with these things. I feel like the number of cutscenes in this expansion was like significantly more than the War Within. I don't know if I'm just misremembering, but it felt like there were a lot of cutscenes, a lot of them in game, like in engine cutscenes. But even like the callbacks to some of the like animated stuff that they did and released before the expansion, like that happened a lot.
Yeah,
And to me, that was a nice break from the go kill X guys, come back and talk to me thing. Like I said, I know this might get annoying to some people and you might hate it. But I actually thoroughly enjoyed that. And I think that they were done pretty well when they were used.
I think you're right. I think they were good. I think I overall enjoyed them. Um, I'm not sure if it's like the quote unquote best way to tell the story, like of just like dividing the story up amongst. Sometimes we're gonna have cutscenes, and sometimes we're gonna tell it via just in-game storytelling, and I still remain undecided on that. But what they are very good at doing those. Especially, I do especially like them when they're in-game. Where it
Hmm.
feels like you're not going to a completely different. Like I really enjoy the animations. I thought the animations were awesome, but it does feel a little weird when you're like in the game and then suddenly it's like now we're going to go to the sweet animation that
Yeah.
we can't even ever get close to doing that in engine. And I'm not asking them like to improve the engine to where they could do something like that. It's just a little weird. Um,
Yeah.
no, that
The
was
the
good. I like the
Salhadar
voice acting.
the Salhadar cutscene is the one that sticks out the most to me,
Sure.
because that is kind of like a callback to when they did the first of these like kind of stop motion animation kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what the correct term for these videos is, but they've improved on these significantly.
Yeah.
And that animation and the like laying the background for Salvador and who he is and why he is the way he is and everything, like A plus.
Yeah.
Um, but it does feel disjointed that is essentially just something that they created to be like third party content to toss to us at some point to explain the background of Salvador. And they're like, oh, well, it'd be a good idea to put this here for anybody who hasn't watched it and doesn't know who he is and everything. Like, it's good, it's novel. It just like it takes away from the fact that you're in WoW at that point, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like it's like the story they want to tell can exist in the game as it is, and so they have to find these ways to get around it. And I get that, but also like maybe you need to back off on the stories you're trying to tell. Then maybe we're being too aggressive in what kind of story we're telling in World of Warcraft in 2026. I don't know, because I just it's not that great. It's fine. Like I just like people get all bent out of shape about when they're like betraying lore stuff, and I'm like, really? It's like it wasn't that good to begin with. And I'm probably people are probably gonna be mad at me about this, but I just think I just think the game is fine. Um,
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the things that are extremely good about the expansion. And I want to start off by saying there's a lot to nitpick. And that's exactly what it is. Like, to be completely honest with you, everything I've said so far are just nitpicks. Like, this is not ruining my experience by any means. And so I think overall, like Scott's already said this, but like A plus so far on the expansion and the experience. And I've got to say, like, to the person who designed Silver Moon, you did a lot better than a lot of the cities that we've experienced in recent expansions as a hub. It is a little confusing to get kind of the lay of the land initially, but once you do, like this city is so much more pretty and just makes sense in a world
Mm-hmm.
more than a lot of the cities that we have. So like I don't know, man. I don't know if it's just because it's new or what, but I feel like Silvermoon is like one of the best hubs we've had in a very long time.
I love it. I think it's great. I agree with you. It's like it's confusing, but like all the hubs are confusing the first time you get to them and you haven't figured out where everything goes, and that'll go away. That'll go away very quickly. But what won't go away is how awesome it looks. And
Mhm.
I agree with you. Excellent job done there. And I mean the part of the game that I am most concerned with, the dungeons. I think they're great. I think they're really
Yeah,
good. I've enjoyed
there.
every single one of them.
So I've talked about the dungeons with our guildies, and there's a lot of people who are doom and gloom, and I was guilty of this going into the War Within. For example, they were doing something new with the God. What was the candle dungeon that I can't even think of the fucking name
Dark
of it
Flame
right
Cleft.
now? Dark Flame. Yeah, I was terrified for this dungeon going into Mythic Plus. Um, and it turned out to be fine. And in fact, it turned out to be one of the better dungeons. And so, like, I've been trying to temper expectations to guildies that I've been talking to who are like super concerned about things like the Den of Nalarak and the shit you have to do at the beginning of it, or the like waiter stuff that you have to do in Murder Row, I
Mm-hmm.
think is the dungeon that you have to do that in.
Yep.
And so, like, all of these things I think ultimately might be annoying because we have two camps of things that happen in the War Within, right? Like we have um, Dark Flame Cleft, which seemed like it was going to be a nightmare and turned out to be fine. And then we had go find these disguised spies and then kill them and then go find another one and then kill it and go find another one and kill it and then you get to go fight the boss. You know, like there are bad ideas. And I think Scott and I have thoroughly complained about that before. But I wouldn't get too hung up on how bad they're going to be for Mythic or Mythic Zero or Mythic Plus, whatever, until we experience it. Because them trying new things to try and shake up a dungeon that isn't just like, uh, for lack of better terms, the Final Fantasy style of pull X amount of groups, pull a boss, pull X amount of groups, pull a boss, pull X amount of groups, pull a boss is a good thing. Like ultimately finding ways to make the experience unique is a way to make it so that you don't feel like you're doing the same thing, but in a different location.
Yeah, I just completely agree here. Like all respect to people who um are worried, but like I think it's the most boring complaint in the world to be like, "Oh, there's something you have to do in this dungeon that isn't pull and kill mobs, therefore it's going to be terrible." I just flat out don't agree with that philosophy. I like I think the thing I love about World of Warcraft dungeons is that they are different. They are not exactly what you talked about. Like they are not the Final Fantasy kind of rote simple things. They are different. And I don't want I don't want I want this. Like even if it makes figuring it out for Mythic Plus more difficult, and even if it's a little clunky, and like I just think the risk is worth it of having one dungeon that just like is a little clunky and doesn't work out, of having things that are different and new and refreshing in dungeons. I just think that's true, and I just I don't think people should worry about this. I really, as much as we bitch about City of Threads, I actually just really don't think the reason why none of us like City of Threads is the game part. I just don't think it is. I think that's such a small part of the overall dungeon. And the things people hate about the dungeon is the trash in the first area, is all the bosses are just not particularly fun to do. So yeah, I don't. I think we should encourage them to try new things and do never before seen stuff in dungeons and stuff like this. Like so,
Mhm.
so from my perspective, every time I see something like this, I'm like, this is really cool. And it's also like there's going to be some sort of way to make this the most efficient, like the food offerings and the freeing the prisoners and the talking to the informants and the doing the restaurant game. Like, it's going to be fun watching people find a way to figure out the most efficient route for these things. And I wish we would
Mhm.
just stop freaking out every time something like this shows up, because clearly this is one of the things that like developers at Blizzard get out of bed for is developing these kind of new, interesting, different dungeons.
Yeah, and I will say the dungeons this time around, while I haven't done a ton of them yet, and I'm not really going to know how I feel about them until I start doing them in Mythic Plus, and the scaling actually starts pushing you to understand the entirety of the mechanics in the dungeon and not just, like what are the basic things the boss does.
Mm-hmm.
I think are interesting. Like a few of them have different routes you can go, kill different bosses in different orders.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mizara Caverns, you can choose if you want to go around the left or the right side at the beginning, which has vastly different mobs that you have to fight depending on which side you go. And then, you can kill bosses in different orders when it comes to a few of the dungeons. I think Windrunner Spire, and then there's another one that's completely slipping my mind where you can really do that. Eh,
I know which one you're talking about, and I'm
yeah,
blanking
it's
on
one
it
of the
now.
you're fighting the plant people. I can't for the life of me remember it. Anyways, there's multiple choices you can make. And
Mm-hmm.
that is if you've been a long time listener, Scott and I want that in every dungeon. Like we don't want every dungeon to be on rails and you have to do XYZ and then boom, you're done with the dungeon. Like
Yeah.
when there's choices in routing or choices in which bosses you fight when, and you can line up lust with this or you can do it in a different way. Like I think it's pretty telling that Scott and I's favorite dungeon from the War Within, or one of our favorite dungeons, was Floodgate.
Mm-hmm.
Because like that dungeon was just, you get to make a choice on what you want to do for the entirety of like the first 75% of the dungeon. And then at the end, yeah, you're on rails, but there's only you and one final boss. Like everything else is like choices you get to make. What do you want to fight? How do you want to spawn the third boss? What do you want up when you're fighting it? And just things like that are always good. And I think that they've done a very good job with the dungeons so far that I've seen that are new in giving you the ability to make meaningful choices in routing and bosses and everything like that.
I agree. I think they're all fun, all of them. I'm pretty happy with these dungeons. I mean, yeah, we'll see. I mean, like there's going to be ones that a month from now, 2 months from now, I'm going to be talking about that I don't like anymore for one reason or another. But whenever you have, like we talked about last week, whenever you have a list of something, something's going to be the worst and something's going to be the best. That's just how the world works. So yeah, I mean, I'm very excited about this season. That's
So
where I'm at.
Scott, I want to ask you one thing specifically that I've noticed that in my opinion is a problem.
Okay.
I think it's in Magister's Terrace. I'm like 99% sure it's Magister's Terrace. It might be Murder Row. But there are mobs that put a doom curse on you. And it is that. It's a curse. And so the cast is not kickable. It's an uninterruptible cast.
Okay.
I don't understand why that is a mechanic when it's going to almost assuredly like outright kill people in groups that don't have a curse to spell.
Man, I didn't even notice that. That's funny. Um,
That seems like an issue.
does it kill you if it goes off? Like, is it death?
I need to
Is it like
look it
Doom,
up.
like
I'm
Final
pretty sure
Fantasy
it's just
Doom?
like a lot of damage. Like a lot of damage.
And there's nothing you can do about it?
Unless you have a curse to spell, that is my understanding. Like we can't handle it in any other way.
That's
I was
interesting.
trying to find out if it was like a kickable thing that you could just ignore if you kicked it, or if there was a way to clear it through like another mob's mechanics. And from my testing, at least, which albeit has been relatively minimal, it seems like the only thing that you can really do is curse to spell it.
I mean, I will say, like, my completely anecdotal feeling is that there seems to be like a lot of curses in these dungeons.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, and ultimately this isn't going to matter because I'm playing a mage and you're playing a druid.
Sure.
But
sure, but like, you're looking out for your fellow healers. And I think the ultimate thing that remains is like stuff like that, where it's like, is it so detrimental that like, I mean, we've always said like I'm okay with healers being better at different things, and I'm generally okay with like there being, some things in some dungeons you can deal with, and some things another healer can't. And it's like fun to see the different pain points for different healers, where some healers are super good at one specific thing, and so it makes this dungeon a lot easier for them than others. I'm completely fine on principle with that. I don't want to get into a situation where it feels like that kind of stuff is absolutely mandatory. Make it easier on you, sure. Mandatory, absolutely not. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see. But it does, yeah, anecdotally feel like there's a lot of curses that we'll see how hard they hit.
this could ultimately just be because we're doing it on normal and heroic, and therefore pulling like 5 million packs that really shouldn't be pulled together too.
That's
Like if I'm being
true,
completely
yeah.
honest with
Yeah,
you.
that's definitely true.
So it might not ultimately be that big of a deal.
We'll find out.
But
We'll find out. We have been kind of the wait and see podcast. We've said that from the beginning with everything. And I will remain to be. I'm not going to freak out about anything until I actually get to see it and touch it and feel it.
mhm.
And yeah.
Well, I don't have much else that I wanted to cover today. I will say next week will likely be us talking a little bit more in detail about dungeons, because we will get to see what the mythic mechanics are going into the dungeons. So I think at that point we'll have a better understanding of like, this is what the bosses are ultimately going to do in Mythic Plus and yada, yada, yada. So that being said, what I do want to end this on, and if you want to add something else afterwards, Scott, be my guest. The dungeons that you are experiencing through the quests, I believe all of them that you are forced to do are going to be season 1 dungeons.
Interesting.
And
I didn't notice that.
To me, I think that that's a good thing, because it's getting people ready for the dungeons that we're going to have to do in season 1. So Nexus Point Zenith is one that you're forced to do. I guess you're forced to do Den of Nalarok, and that one's not in season 1. Is it?
No, it's the other one. It's the other troll one. And Windrunner Spire isn't. So I think only I think you're right that like 2 of the 4 are.
Well, you're not forced to do Windrunner, are you? It's
no,
just
you're not forced to do
Steris,
Windrunner.
Den and
Xenos.
Nexus Point Zenith.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought that all 3 of them that you were forced to do were in it, and then I remembered Den was the one that you were forced to do, not Windrunner Spire. So disregard what I was about to say then. I was going to say it's a good idea that they did this, and then they put all those dungeons in the first rotation, because it's like you're forced to do these, and if you're leveling late, like you've already done the dungeons. You know what to roughly be expecting going into the first season of Mythic Plus.
Yeah, I mean, that would probably be a good idea for them to do maybe in the future.
So what is Mizar Caverns? That's the last of the 4.
Yes, that's correct.
New dungeons that are going to be in. And again, that one's not required. So you're required to do Nexus Point. You're required to do Magister's Terrace. Those are going to be in the first season. And then Windrunner Spire and Mizar Caverns you're not required to do.
Yeah, so you're required to do 3 dungeons over the course of the campaign, right?
3 dungeons and 2 delves, I believe.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. That's the other, I mean, I know we're trying to wrap up, but that's the other thing that's weird about Harinar to me is, unlike some of the other zones we did, that is when we leave and like if you just straight do the campaign and you do no side quests in Harinar, like half the zone remains unexplored because you just don't go to it at all. And I thought that is another piece of evidence of my this was tacked on, or this was cut content that made its way into Midnight, because that feels so weird. That just like, and like the Harinar plot concludes in Eversong, like everything wraps up in Eversong Woods. Actually,
yeah.
What a weird
it's
zone story. Yeah,
it's very interesting. The other thing with the Harinar is it was like the first time that we experienced the like the bar over somebody's head that counts down until something happens in early access so far this expansion, which I get why they do it. And, it's nice to have a visual in-game representation of like when the next thing's going to happen. But it looks so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like when the first time they did this with Khadgar,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's when they released the actual Haranar allied race. But when the first time they did this with Khadgar in the fucking wheelchair, it just looks so disjointed from the rest of everything that's in the game. Like, I don't know how you feel about it, but it's just weird to me.
It doesn't bother me as much as it does you, but like I agree. Like in a game that like focuses on fidelity a lot, that like has for the longest time taken this really hard stance on like making sure that all the like effects in dungeons are aesthetically matching the type of casters and the dungeon it's in and the story of the dungeon. To have something like that, it feels like an inelegant solution. I mean, I guess what I'll say is I would rather them display that in game than require you to like go to Wowhead to learn when something is going to unlock.
100% agreed.
So that's better. But yeah, I wonder if there's a less aesthetically like jarring way of doing that.
Well, all right, Scott. Well, we can go ahead and we can wrap up again. Okay. Next week. I think we'll talk about the dungeons more and kind of our experience there, and maybe the world events, assuming they're all working as intended.
Sure.
If there's even anything to really like, if it's fill up a bar or defend a thing until the bar fills up, like I can't say we're really going to cover that very much, but
yeah, I mean that's definitely one of them for sure. Although there's a wrinkle on that. The one in Voidstorm is like that, but it's also a little different in maybe ways that end up being cool.
Tower defense-esque part of it.
I'm curious how much that ultimately matters. That's the part I want to wait to talk about, is like if where you put shit doesn't actually matter at all and it's just a fill up the bar event, then like I'm gonna be a little disappointed. But
yeah, same.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Well, the question that I have for you guys this week is very simple. Do you think Scott and I are completely off our rocker when we're talking about the XP and everything that we're complaining about here? Because we are both 100% acknowledging like this is not the part of the game for us, and maybe that's why we want it to go faster. So, do you guys think we're completely unhinged here? How do you think the leveling experience fared in Midnight compared to like the War Within, or maybe even Dragonflight leveling? That's really all I've got for you guys this week, and what I'd be the most interested in knowing from your guys' perspective.
Yeah.
As always, guys, you can contact us over at yellingintothevoidwow@gmail.com. YouTube is at yellingintothevoidwow, and Twitter and Blue Sky are both at intothevoidwow.
Yeah, get those YouTube comments up, folks. Come on. Let's do it. Come on. Also, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We are on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on YouTube, as Devin said, and pretty much anywhere else in the world that podcasts can be downloaded and listened to. We're there.
And then please consider liking, subscribing, and just like Scott said, commenting on the YouTube video, the Spotify video and recording. All of that helps us get more exposure, introduces us to new people, and allows us to keep doing what we're doing here. So,
yeah, even if the comment is just, you guys are a bunch of dummies, stop whining. It's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say I won't ignore you if that's the comment, but also...
Only if you call me a dummy with love. Like if you actually is like being mean, then stop it.
But yeah, the comments that Scott is really going to reply to is the ones who are just calling him bald. So
wow, okay, I'm wearing a hat today. You can't even tell I'm bald. Back off, man.
But all right, guys. Well, Midnight's here. I hope everybody is enjoying. This is the Void expansion, so we got to be going hard over here at Yelling Into the Void for the Void expansion, right?
If we don't make it now, we're never gonna make it.
I mean, all of the story needs to just stop in every zone, but Voidstorm at this point, right?
Yeah, but that's like, I don't know. I think Voidstorm kind of sucks, but maybe we'll talk about that next week.
Also, is this the Void expansion or the Light expansion?
I think the Light is bad. I'm gonna take a big mental leap here and say the light not good.
All right. Well, things we need to uncover later in a future episode, Scott. But until next week, guys, we'll just be over here yelling into the void.
Go void. We are pro void. Boo light. We're good. Light bad.